81 million for Joe Biden, 75 million for Donald Trump.
Yeah, Joe Biden campaigning out of his basement.
Yeah. So a little bit more than 150 million voters voted. But you do not count the voters, right? That's not how you count the votes. You have electoral college.
Yes.
What is that? Because once again, I believe lots of Americans have no idea.
Yeah, which is very sad, okay?
It's
because
very sad.
again, we remember going back to the fact that we are a republic. We are a representative republic. We are not a democracy.
Yes.
Okay? You do not want a democracy. A democracy will devolve to tyranny, right? We are going to
51% will control the 49.
That's it, okay? And also, what that means is if we went by popular vote, New York and L.A., would be deciding the country.
20
okay?
million.
Yeah, they would be deciding essentially where everything would go would just be these big cities, okay? The decisions would be made for Nebraska and for Idaho, where I now live, would be decided by people in L.A., New York, Chicago, these major cities. And so when we became a collection of states, the states agreed that we would have a balance of authority and a balance of power. Okay, that meant that everybody gets 2 senators. Well, how fair is that? Idaho has 2 million people and California has 40 million. And so why do they only get 2 and 2? Well, because they need an equal voice in certain matters. And the Senate is kind of like the big brother chamber. And then you've got the House, right? So the House has members apportioned by population. So that's why, here in California, we have a bunch of them, and in Idaho, we do not, right? So there's that balance, okay? Because yes, there is a big population here. So, you have that representation. Well, the Electoral College operates on that same principle. Number one, if it was only popular vote, where would the presidents go if they wanted to win the hearts of the people? They certainly wouldn't come to Idaho, or they certainly wouldn't go to Wyoming or the Dakotas. They would never care about the flyover states, right? They would never be represented in this great republic, right? They would not be represented. So they would have no voice for the ranchers. They would have no voice for the farmers. It would be the tech bros in San Francisco and LA and the finance guys in New York who all think that they should be the masters of the universe and tell us all what to do. But they would be the ones deciding, okay? So our states got together and agreed that we were going to have the Electoral College, right? And the Electoral College is a representative that you are sending from your state to go and cast the vote of the state is essentially what it is. All right, so it's again another one of those mechanisms for checks and balances, so that popular vote is not how we end up recording who the winner is. There's been a couple of times, Donald Trump being one of them, where the popular vote was lost, but the Electoral College was won. And usually you saw it's pretty thin numbers, up here at the top, right? So the country is roughly 50-50 when you talk about voters. It almost always has been, with the exception of certain landslides, or certain times when like Nixon was so popular, or you had Reagan win in a landslide against Walter Mondale, just absolutely cleaned his clock. There's those kind of moments.
Losing to Clinton because of Ross Perot.
Yeah, that's a good one. Third party candidate came in. Ross Perot took all these votes away because Ross Perot was more of the small government libertarian style kind of a guy, and George Bush was more of the establishment kind of a guy, and you siphoned off a bunch from our side.
Do you think RFK Jr. is the modern Ross Perot for Democrats?
So according to the polls, he's polling more from the Democrat side, but he is polling in some areas where it doesn't matter for Trump. He's polling from Trump. So he actually hurts them more than he hurts Trump. But it's interesting because it's not that clear. It's not like a Ross Perot situation.
But when you have this electoral college, it almost makes no sense to vote if you're a Republican and you're in California.
Yeah, I mean
there's no chance it's going to be
that's the danger.
red.
So I did not vote for Trump the first time in 2016. Okay, now the reason I did that, I wasn't what we called a never Trumper at the time. I wanted Ted Cruz. He was my guy. In that
But
election.
he was born in Canada, right? Ted Cruz.
That's no. I mean, he's not a Canadian. I think maybe born on a base, or there's one of those. I forget Ted Cruz's history. Somebody will probably fact check. I don't remember that. But no. He was legitimate.
He was a candidate. Okay.
Legitimate candidate.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's certain people, by the way, that if you get born on U.S. territory, which includes our military bases, you are eligible as a U.S. citizen. So there's been a few of those in the past. I think maybe John McCain or somebody. Anyway, I don't know that history well enough, but there have been times like that. But I did not vote for Trump because I wanted to have conversations with my friends when he either performed well or performed poorly, where it was like he was not my guy. And I also knew that here in California, he was not going to take California. So I was not in danger of it coming down to 10,000 votes and Bryce ruined it. Okay. So I just wanted to be able to have conversations with my friends that thought he was an idiot. Because if he performed well, which he did, he governed extremely conservatively. That's the first time that we've ever had that, by the way. Most of the time, they campaign really conservative and then they end up governing far more liberal. Trump campaigned in his unique style that was like, okay, he's going to be a wild man. Who knows what he's going to be? We were all thinking that maybe he's going to go super liberal on us, and we were all concerned about that. And then he actually ended up governing probably more conservatively than almost anybody that we'd had in my lifetime. I mean, it was wild to witness. And so I became a Trump supporter. I never wore a MAGA hat. I may after yesterday, though. But I never wore the hat. I never wore the T-shirts. I was not, because I'm not that guy, right? I do not believe that a politician is our messiah. I don't get caught up in cult of personality stuff. That's not my style.
But when they bully a little guy, because he's a little guy in comparison to the government, they bullied him big time.
Oh yeah, and he did not. And the reason his crime was he did not play along with his billionaire class, so he did not toe the line with all of the oligarchs. He wasn't a part of this global thing. Again, remember I talked. He came out of that room, and he said, "Yeah, everything you believed about how unfairly this system is stacked against you, it's true." How do I know? Because I'm part of it. That's essentially what he did. He revealed what was behind the curtain, and everybody got mad at him. And immediately, from day one, they set about trying to destroy him. From day one of his administration. Probably, actually, truly, that day in November when he won, and you saw the pictures of the Hillary supporters screaming, they plotted his downfall. And they were going to take the country with them if they had to. That's what we've been facing. And what I was saying earlier, and I think we got off track, of going to the UFC. And at the UFC, he walked out at UFC 296. I was on the floor, 15 feet away from him, walking out with Madison Cawthorn. And he walks down the aisle. The boom of that crowd, the intensity. I posted it. And I said something along the lines of, that's why they hate him, because he is the president of that we the people. Like that is who he is. He's the president of the muscular class. He's the president of the truckers and the people who actually make this world go round. If we get into a war or we get into really desperate situations or terrible economic conditions or things are falling apart where it's just basic survival, it isn't going to be the Wall Street bros or the tech bros that are going to save us. It's going to be the plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters, the ranchers. That's who his people are, and that is why he is so hated by the globalists and by the establishment powers. Can you
imagine Joe Biden walking in the UFC, making an entrance like Donald Trump did?
They would be an equal boo.
Yeah.
The thunderous boo might knock him off his feet, off of his frail feet.
Wow. Yeah, and he does those things like 3 to 4 times a year, and every time the crowd goes wild.
It is
New York, Vegas, Miami.
I legit got tears in my eyes because of the overwhelming emotion. Now, if I was, and that was me as kind of an observer, okay? That was just me feeling the human emotion in the arena was so intense. It wasn't, I'm so happy to see my president. It was seeing the people that got me like, whoa. I mean, dude, it hit you in your soul being in that crowd like that. It was wild.
I believe seeing that, maybe even someone from the globalist elite if they were in that arena, I believe they are afraid of that. When 20,000 people cheer up
100%.
like that with the energy, and those guys are
Yeah.
not the obese guys with the 300 pounds.
Yeah.
They're even shredded or
Oh yeah,
going
no,
to
we're
sports,
talking about
doing martial arts.
we're talking about the tough people. We're talking.
Yeah.
Why do you think all those guys are conservative? Almost every single one of those guys. You don't hear
100%.
a UFC dude
Never.
going, yeah, I just really dig Biden. He's the best, man. This has been wonderful. This economy, I just love it. This guy, he's my guy. A sensible leadership is what we need. Joe Biden brings it. No, you don't hear that. Why are they all conservative? Because it's a merit-based. It's one of the most merit-based things on the planet, okay? And so people of merit are conservative. People who earn it are conservative. People who have to fight are conservative, right? People that have to have this, kind of like real, uncomfortable pressure of a fight and things like that, they are 9 times out of 10 going to be conservative people.
Those are the people that just want to live their lives, to have children, maybe not having children, but just to live their lives and not getting government involved in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm a small government guy, right? For the reason that I want government should be out of your way. It should exist to only keep you safe in the sense that it is protecting your God-given rights.
So 50 states, out of 50 states, 45 states are not swing states. They always they tend to vote.
It's either one way or another.
Yeah,
right.
No
Very
chance.
clear. Right.
Do you think New York can vote differently in November? After what happened in New York?
I think New York is in play like it never has been before. I think there are states that are in play that never have been before. Now, everybody, like the really smart guys and like Turning Point, Charlie Kirk, I'm on one of his boards, and Charlie, man, those guys are going to town with their political action committee, right? They're the C4. Turning Point Action is putting ballot chasers on the ground in these swing states, in the places that they need to. They've got an army of folks
basically fighting for their country.
Yeah, doing by the way what the left did before, which is go and get the ballots, go and get the low propensity voters to vote. The people that agree with Trump but just stay home because they're like, oh, whatever, what is it going to matter anyway? Getting those folks, getting people registered to vote, all this stuff, they're doing that, right? So we've got people that are working very hard in those places, but I think there's going to be places that are going to surprise us and wrecking the business environment as they've done. They have shattered our economic structures. They've shattered our Department of Justice. They've shattered our systems and institutions in pursuit of Trump that might be irreparable. I mean, we have become a banana republic under this administration's leadership. And so in places like New York, where they rely upon the valuations of buildings and all that stuff, they went and pursued Trump, playing that he was fraudulently estimating the value of his businesses and his buildings.
The bank earned money.
The bank said it was fine. The bank was like, no, we're happy. We'd do business with him again.
Who sues him?
Well, and everybody says, I think it's worth this, and the bank goes, well, we think it's worth this.
Yeah.
And then they do their independent valuations, and then you come to some sort of agreement, and then you get the loan, okay? And they relied upon stupid people who've never done real estate transactions, and by that I don't mean insulting everybody, because there's people that just are unaware of the way things work.
Illiterate.
Okay? And so stupid is probably too harsh a word, although there's plenty of those too. But just people who just don't understand. And then they say, oh, see, Trump's a fraudster. We told you. We've been saying that consistently as a drumbeat in all of the media and all of the establishment corporate media for the last several years. We've been telling you this, and see, look, here's evidence of it. Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million. Okay, now it spans the intercoastal waters to the coast. It has a business on it. Mar-a-Lago is a beautiful piece of property. I go there every single year for a couple of different events. It is absolutely amazing. Trump comes out for most of them when he's there. And it is a phenomenal property. The postage stamp property next door that was an empty lot was worth $40 million, okay? It was absolutely absurd. And a judge does not declare the value of a property, but they put all of the pieces in place for lawfare. Political warfare, jail a political opponent just to be able to say, this convicted felon, he's facing 400 years in jail because of all the things that we drummed up. How could you vote for a guy like that?